At the Essex County Correctional Facility after a former New York City rapper who was awaiting sentencing on federal drug charges got slashed in a vicious altercation with another inmate.
Yeah, that was why he got his Like, you playing too many songs, bro. Like, you either with us or around the time you made the track, I'm telling you, you're not from here, bro. You gotta know how to move. You gotta know who to chill with, bro. Anything can happen to you. You just moving dumb.
Somebody Melly, bro.
Did you see that video on YouTube at the house party?
Yeah, that video fucked me up, bro.
Wedgie man, you heard? Ebk Chopper, you the real Wedgie man, you heard? You see what happened to your little
Loyalty or fame? Which comes first for rappers tied to street gangs? For many, gangs provide protection, but that security comes with a price, loyalty. And when the demands of fame clash with these expectations, things can spiral fast. We've seen it with artists like Casanova, Moneybagg, and 6ix9ine and Knee, all rappers who became scapegoats after betraying their crews. So today we will be showing you 6 of these rappers that were accused of betraying their gangs, and were never the same after.
punch you in your face, and I can see that. Hey, time I come through, nigga, got my
Let's kick things off with Casanova, the rapper whose name not only became synonymous with his music, but also with his larger-than-life persona. Things were going pretty well for him until it all came crashing down when he had to face some serious legal trouble. He ended up confessing to the accusations and eventually got sentenced. But as if that wasn't enough, things took an even worse turn when he got attacked while serving time in prison. The wild part? The attack came from his own crew, the untouchable guerrilla Stone Nation, who felt he had turned his back on them. The guy who carried out the attack was someone by the name of Ulysses Lugo.
See his face because he was saturated in blood. You couldn't see it at the time because his whole face was saturated in blood and his whole uniform was saturated in blood.
The incident happened last year at the County Correctional Facility, where Casanova was just trying to do his time. Out of nowhere, Lugo came at him with a blade, and it got real ugly real fast. Casanova's face got slashed up pretty bad, but instead of just taking the hit, he fought back. Lugo tried to make a run for it, but Casanova and his guys chased him down. By the time the guards managed to break things up, Casanova had allegedly already given Lugo a taste of his own medicine, cutting him up several times in the face too. The whole thing was chaotic, and no one really understood why Lugo went after CAs like that. Pretty soon, rumors started swirling that it might have something to do with a letter Casanova had sent to the judge in his case just a few days earlier. You see, back in 2020, Casanova was accused of being a major player, a shot caller, for the untouchable guerrilla Stone Nation. He got wrapped up in a huge RICO case with 17 other members of the gang. At first, he pleaded not guilty, but eventually, he took a deal and pleaded guilty to a bunch of charges. Even with that plea deal, though, he was still staring down the possibility of up to 60 years behind bars. Word on the street is that maybe that's why he sent a letter to the judge saying he was done with the street life. Apparently, that letter didn't sit too well with his gang, and some people think the prison attack was their way of paying him back for what they saw as betrayal. After Casanova, our next guy is Moneybagg. This is one rapper that has always stood out in the game, known for his street lingo and the authenticity that made his music catchy and relatable. From club bangers to hood anthems, he's been at the top of his game. But lately, people have started questioning his realness, and some fans are even worried for his safety. Why? Because it seems like his past, particularly his ties to an old gang, has been brought to light, and it's not looking good. As a kid trying to make a living, Moneybagg fell in love with hip-hop, and he grew up listening to legends like Boosie, Yo Gotti, Juvenile, and Future.
I'm the type to loaf your wife and your baby mama. Boss on me, I made the plug, change the.
Now this is where things started to go sideways for him. Moneybagg eventually linked up with Yo Gotti, but here's the thing. Moneybagg is from South Memphis, while Yo Gotti is from North Memphis. And if you know the streets, those two sides don't exactly get along. So when Moneybagg signed with Gotti's CMG label, it caused some tension.
God, I really couldn't do that.
Right.
Like I said, he from North, I'm from the South.
Yeah.
They don't get along, so it's like I went against my hood for that because I just saw a whole bigger picture.
Suddenly, Moneybagg found himself beefing with people he didn't even know, even guys he had previously worked with. In 2017, he dropped a joint mixtape with NBA YoungBoy called Fed Baby, and at first everything seemed cool. But then out of nowhere, YoungBoy started dissing Moneybagg in videos and not promoting the tape. Moneybagg, though, kept it chill and didn't add fuel to the fire. Eventually, it seemed like the two of them squashed the beef behind the scenes. But just as that drama was cooling down, another one started up. This time, it was 1017 label artist Rollo who took shots at Moneybagg and Yo Gotti. It really made you realize how deep street politics go when it comes to what people see as betrayal. Then in 2020, things took an even crazier turn. A recording surfaced online, allegedly from a prison inmate, accusing Moneybagg of selling out. The guy in the recording? Turns out he was someone who used to be Moneybagg's day one, an old friend who went by the name Stupid Duke, a member of a group called Young Mob. Duke was known in Memphis for being a savage, and the fact that he was now calling out Moneybagg had people talking. There were even receipts that showed Moneybagg was still hanging with the crew at one point, something most fans had no clue about. Duke didn't hold back either. He accused Moneybagg of working with the ops, and it was wild for fans to learn that their favorite rapper had this whole past with a gang like Young Mob that they knew nothing about. Duke's words hit hard, but we need to backtrack a little here. In an old Vlad TV interview, Moneybagg addressed the hate he was getting, saying that dudes were mad for no reason because no one had even been so there shouldn't have been any issue with him signing to CMG and getting his money.
For you to make millions, like, it's bigger than bro. Yeah. Like, cut this out. Like, nobody didn't get over this anyway. Like, leave it alone. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's keep going.
But clearly things weren't that simple. And caught in the middle of all this drama was Moneybagg's longtime friend OG Boo Dirty, who ended up being the one taking the fall. Of course, our list can't be complete without Tekashi 6ix9ine in it. Now, many of you already know his story. This guy started out as a notorious internet troll before finding massive success as a rapper. Instead of paying for Billboard's marketing, he stirred up buzz with his controversial statements and public beefs with other artists. To protect himself, Tekashi aligned himself with the 9 Trey Gangsta Bloods, a gang well known in the Brooklyn and Bronx boroughs for being involved in drug robbery, and other violent crimes. Tekashi's manager at the time, Shotty, was a major player in 9 Trey and saw an opportunity to use Tekashi's image to create a modern-day version of Death Row Records.
This cat pull up on them real life like where the energy at. I shot you, I robbed you, and y'all ain't do nothing back.
In early 2018, fellow Brooklyn rapper Casanova dropped a track called Set Trippin', throwing shade at Tekashi with bars like, "How you trying to rep the hood? You ain't even gang." At the time, Tekashi was one of the hottest artists out there, and this beef sparked even more controversy. Casanova's record, backed by the 9 Trey Bloods, essentially questioned Tekashi's street credibility. The internet took this beef and ran with it, fueling the drama for the sake of clicks and music hype. A few months later, things escalated when Tekashi was walking with boxer Adrian Broner at an event at the Barclays Arena, while Casanova was also there with his own entourage. A confrontation broke out between their crews, shots were fired in the tunnel, and it became a chaotic moment that solidified their beef in rap history. Then, Tekashi went after Chief Keef and his Glow Gang crew, which led to even more drama. Tekashi got involved with Cuban Doll, the ex-girlfriend of Glow Gang artist Tato, which made things even worse. Tekashi doubled down on the trolling by posting videos of him with Cuban Doll, openly dissing Tato, Chief Keef, and the whole Glow Gang crew. This didn't sit well with them, and Chief Keef responded by dropping a song called I People with lyrics that were direct threats.
Hey, shawty know I people, real people from the trenches where it's real lethal.
In June 2018, when the beef with Casanova had started to cool down, Chief Keef was in New York, and Tekashi's people got word of it. Tekashi reportedly ordered a hit on Chief Keef, and his associate, Kuda B, shot at Chief Keef outside a hotel in Times Square. This was a reckless move for several reasons, not only because Chief Keef is a high-profile rapper, but also because it happened in New York City, one of the most surveilled places in the country. The whole thing was caught on camera, and Kuda B was later arrested. According to court documents, Tekashi had paid him $10,000 for the hit, though he was supposed to get $20,000 if the job was successful. Since Chief Keef survived, Kuda only got half. Tekashi's involvement with 9 Trey became a huge deal as he wasn't just pretending to be a gangster. He was making real decisions, like paying people to carry out hits. But when things fell apart, it turned out Tekashi was never really about that life. In November 2018, the federal government indicted the 9 Trey Bloods on racketeering, drug and conspiracy charges, with Tekashi at the center of it all. The indictment was part of a long-term investigation by the FBI and NYPD involving 11 defendants, including high-ranking members like Mel Murda, who was considered the godfather of 9 Trey, and Shotty, Tekashi's manager. Facing a minimum of 47 years in prison, Tekashi made the decision to cooperate with the government to get a reduced sentence. The reason he flipped: Tekashi claimed that 9 Trey had turned on him. He said they kidnapped him, stole his money, and even slept with his girlfriend. So, to save himself, he embraced the role of a snitch. During his cooperation, Tekashi didn't hold back. He brought up everything from Cardi B's alleged gang affiliations to Trippie Redd's connection to the Bloods. He even spilled details about internal beefs between 9 Trey and Rap-A-Lot Records, a Houston-based label founded by Jay Prince. Back in 2018, Tekashi had traveled to Houston for a show but refused to perform, believing he was being set up. He later claimed that 9 Trey had plans to rob Rap-A-Lot artists when they came to New York. Thanks to Tekashi's testimony, many key members of 9 Trey were sentenced to long prison terms. Mel Murda got 11 years, and Shawty was sentenced to 15 years. Meanwhile, Tekashi only served 2 years and was released in April 2020. Upon his release, a lot of people, including big names like Snoop Dogg, called him out for breaking the street code by ratting on his crew, with Snoop being one of the most vocal critics. Next up is 051 Melly. Melly was born and raised on the south side of Chicago, in an area that was no stranger to the tough realities of street life. Early on, he lived in the CET building, also known as the Randolph Towers. But after the projects were demolished, his family relocated to 59th and Calumet. Growing up, Melly was surrounded by his mom, brother, sister, and his stepfather, Jerome Golden, who was a well-known member of the Black Disciples in Chicago. Jerome is currently serving a life sentence for 4 and a robbery, so from the get-go, Melly was exposed to the harsh street life. It didn't stop there either. Melly had a bunch of uncles and cousins who were deep into the streets as well. This included Mubu Crump and No Limit G Slim, one of the founding members of NLMB, a notorious gang in the city. With so many close family members involved in gang life, it was no surprise that Melly was influenced by his environment early on. However, just because his family had a strong reputation didn't mean Melly automatically got respect. He had to earn that for himself, but in quite a way nobody would have thought. When Melly was living in the Calumet building, he started getting tight with the BDs who claimed the area. But things took a turn when he went to Dunbar High School, where he began hanging out with members of another major gang in Chicago, the Mickey Cobras. It was at this point that Melly started getting close to a guy named 051 Zico, who was part of the 051 Money Gang. 051 was a unique set because it was made up of members from different gangs, including BDs, Black P Stones, and Mickey Cobras. Thanks to his connections, Melly fit right in, even though he originally started out as a BD. Rumors started swirling later on that Melly had possibly switched sides and became a Mickey Cobra himself. This was because 051's main enemies included BD sets like O-Block, 600, and Lamron. By getting involved in that beef, Melly essentially became BDK, Black Disciple, meaning he was a renegade BD who turned against his own people. That move made him one of the most notorious and feared figures in the street.
Most reckless BDs out here, but I'm BDK.
What was clear though is that Melly repped Young Money, a renegade squad that didn't follow the typical rules of any particular gang. They lived by their own code and operated outside the usual gang structures. Melly's transformation into a full-blown savage happened after 051 Zico was murdered by someone from the Zeeks. That was a huge turning point for Melly. It pushed him deeper into the streets, and from then on, he became known as a terror, feared by many, and respected for his ruthlessness. It didn't take long for Melly's enemies to catch up with him. In September 2019, during a house party thrown by FBG and Jarrow City to honor one of Duck's close friends, things went south. 007, Nate caught Melly lacking at the party and, in a shocking twist, shot him right there in front of a crowd. The whole thing was captured on camera, and unfortunately this time Melly didn't make it. He ended up losing his life that night. Then we've got Blockwork.
I miss you a lot. I don't know how to feel. You left me a shot. I was spinning, trying to let it clap.
Blockwork, a rapper from Harlem, comes from the same area as ED and the Sugar Hill movement. But despite being from the same hood, things took a rough turn for him when he was disowned by his own people. So what led to this betrayal? Well, back in late November, rappers Shaw, EK, and OY's Sugar Hill Keem took to the internet calling Blockwork a snitch. The story goes that Blockwork and Sugar Hill Keem were in a taxi together when they got pulled over by the police. After that, the narrative about Blockwork being a rat started started to spread. Shaw, Ek, and Keem didn't hold back, pushing this narrative hard online and in the streets, drilling the idea into fans' heads that Blockwork had snitched, which ended up seriously damaging his reputation.
Like, I was in a situation with my mans where he felt like he could try to quote-unquote, extort me, you feel me?
Sugar Hill King.
Yeah.
After being kicked out by the OGs in his hood, Blockwork decided to link up with the Brooklyn rap group 41 since they were all under the same management. He started making music with 41 and even went as far as dissing his former gang. Things got even more heated after the death of Naughty Osama, with 41 dropping some of the most disrespectful songs in New York drill history, including the infamous track Naughty Bop. Even though Blockwork wasn't on good terms with Sugar Hill at the time, he still had love for them and didn't want any harm to come their way. So he made the tough decision to step away from 41 and start dissing them instead, which marked the second time he had been betrayed in his career. It's clear that Blockwork's journey has been full of ups and downs, especially when it comes to loyalty and trust in the streets. Finally, there's also Ebk Nas.
Wreck might go through the low and I'm sending them shots and you smoking on boat. I studied the clip, so watch out dope.
Bronx rapper Ebk Nas is part of the DOA crew, the same crew that Clock is with. But before Nas linked up with K and the rest of the DOA, he used to hang out with the OGs from Cortland. He was cool with guys like Sieg, Jay Goon, Shaw Ek, and PJ Glizzy. Nas would often chill on their block and built a solid relationship with them, even hooking them up with wedding cake, a popular weed strain, regularly.
Not knowing, just trying to be damn. It looked like you cool whole time. You trying to do that to you before that happened to you. Okay. It just was never the right time.
But then one day, PJ Glizzy decided he had spent enough time getting close to Nas, and it was time to flip the script and betray him. PJ invited Nas to a fake party and told him to meet up at a certain location. When Nas showed up, PJ and a couple of his goons were waiting, not for a party, but to rob him. They ended up taking everything Nas had on him. After getting robbed, Nas made the decision to distance himself from the OGs. He started leaning more towards the Sevside DOA crew and stayed as far away from PJ and his former associates as possible. PJ, not one to keep things quiet, even jumped on Instagram Live and basically self-snitched, saying, "I robbed you," and keeping it completely blunt for everyone to hear.